Hello, friend. It's so nice to be here with you today. I am so excited for today's interview. We're welcoming Joseph Marohn to the Born to Be Brave podcast. We have a live audience today, and we're thankful for John. Welcome, Joseph.
Hey, thank you, Colleen. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, last week, was it last week I met you?
Yeah, we met at the Aspire tour in LA last week.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I ran up there because I met you and some really awesome other people up in LA. Thanks to Pace inviting us, right?
Yeah, it was
And
it was a great time.
it was really good. And you guys are going to love this because this is what I love is I love meeting. I don't call people normal people anymore because I feel like we're all extraordinary beings here on earth living below our potential. But Joseph has really just stepped up his game, in my opinion, and he just got into real estate. I'm going to read his bio to you really quick, but I want him to share his journey and what he's accomplished in such a short time because I feel like every person is sitting where you were a year ago thinking about doing this.
Right.
And then, like, what made you decide to do it? Is it still echoing, John? I saw John shaking his head. Okay, I'm going to read Joseph's bio. Okay, Joseph is a distinguished figure in the real estate industry, skillfully balancing his dual roles as a building engineer by day and a real estate entrepreneur by night. He kicked off his real estate journey in 2020, so just last year, swiftly acquiring a diverse property portfolio in Texas by leveraging the power of creative finance. In addition to his business, in his investments, Joseph has ventured into the wholesale business, expanding his reach to several markets beyond his home state. His approach is unique. He focuses on out of the state purchases, illustrating his ability to identify and capitalize on opportunities, regardless of the geographical boundaries. This strategy has not only diversified his investment portfolio, but also underscored his adeptness at remote real estate operations. He's a member of the Subto community, that's where I met him, and highlighted in interviews by notable figures like Pace Morby. He also hosts the Real Estate Unlocked podcast on his YouTube channel, aiming to empower aspiring real estate investors with the tools and knowledge needed to navigate the industry successfully. Anyway, he has a story of ambition, innovation, and success. So, anyway, I want to just talk to you about how did you get started in this and what is creative finance? How did you find Pace Morby? What made you think what real estate? How did you get involved in all this?
Yeah, so I've shared this story before, but basically the reason why I got into real estate was, first of all, real estate's always intrigued me since I was younger, and I found my way getting into building engineering. I joined a local union, and I've been doing that for about 12 years now.
Can
So
I
it's
ask
been
you
a
one question? Can I ask you
Yeah.
one question? For someone that's ignorant like me, what's building engineering? I don't know what that is.
So building engineer can mean many things, but I'm more on the maintenance mechanical side. So if you picture a high-rise building, like I work in downtown LA, I work for a high-rise building, and what we do is we just keep that thing operating. So anywhere from HVAC to plumbing, electrical, we operate the boilers, the chillers, all that good stuff. So everything that keeps that building running, we're making sure that's maintained properly. Then on also we have a lot of tenants inside the building, so a lot of times they'll be calling us for any issues they have, like any plumbing issues. Let's say that their temperature in their office is not appropriate. They'll call us and then we'll come in there and we'll fix the problem. So that's
Okay,
basically what
thanks.
a building engineer is. So I work for a local union and it's been great. I've been on this journey for 12 years now and I went through a union school. I went through the apprenticeship, did that for 4 years, graduated, and yeah, and then that's basically my background as far as building engineering. So I make six figures. It's a pretty great career, but the reason why I specifically got into real estate was because last year, me and my wife decided to go and purchase our first primary residence. Perfect timing, right? With the
Yeah.
with the real estate going on, like it, it wasn't the greatest. Let's just say that I should have bought a long time ago, but we dove in anyways, and we did. We got approved, and but the problem was once we started looking for properties, for what we could afford, we were getting like these small homes, like 1,200 square feet, 1,000 square feet, and they were up to like 800K, 850. And when we saw what our monthly payment was going to be, our PITI, it was going to be around $4,600 to $5,500. So even though we could afford that, we were basically going to be house broke, right? And that's not sustainable long term. Nobody wants to live being house broke. So I knew that I had to bring more revenue in. I knew I had to find another source. So when I originally started, I tried to do the whole, let me purchase stocks. Let me get in here. Let me try to do some day trading. And I quickly realized that that wasn't for me. So then I decided, you know what? Why don't I just go with my gut and go with real estate? That's what everybody always told me, to get in real estate. And I just started watching YouTube videos, just like everybody else, watching YouTube videos, you know, reading books, listening to podcasts. And I came across Bigger Pockets. And I'm sure everybody here has heard about Bigger Pockets. I started watching them and I was blown away by these guys. Then one episode, I came across Pace Morby. And, you know, everybody, when I was first starting out, a lot of people were like, dude, you're jumping in real estate the wrong time. You know, this is not the time to invest in real estate. It's a shaky market right now. Interest rates are through the roof. Like, you should just wait. But when I watched this episode with Pace Morby and listening to him talk about creative finance, how you can purchase properties with no money out of pocket, you don't need to get any bank loans, you know, no credentials check, and you can purchase a property and take over someone's existing mortgage at 2%, 3%, 4%. I said, I don't know, man, this sounds skeptical, right? Like, it sounds almost like this is too good to be true. Like, I was thinking the same thing like everybody else. Like, is this illegal? Like, this can't be true. But I decided to look more into it. So I purchased his book, and I started reading that book, and I was just blown away by it, listening to more stuff on him on YouTube, and just trying to learn everything I can. Then I joined the free creative finance group that he has on Facebook. And I just started connecting with other people. And I happened to meet a guy out here. You met him. His name is Ryan. I met him out here in California. And he introduced me to a gentleman by the name of John Shin. And John Shin is a well-known figure in the, you know, real estate and filming. And I went to his house, and he kind of taught, he did a seminar that day and was teaching a lot about mindset and teaching people how to invest in not only real estate, but also businesses. So I just got, you know, I got fired up when I saw this stuff, and I just decided, you know what, like, now's the time to start taking action, right? So I was like, how do I get further into this? So then I figured out that Pace Morby actually had a mentorship, right? And I thought I was in the mentorship. Funny thing about it was, when we were in the free group, I thought that was the mentorship. I kept hearing about this mentorship, and then I was like, okay, I'm part of it. But then I realized, like, no, the mentorship is actually a paid mentorship. And once I did that, I joined the mentorship. And when they told me the price, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, this is kind of a lot, you know. It's an investment in yourself. But I talked to my wife, and my wife has always been very supportive of me. And I talked to her about it. I said, look, I got this thing going on with real estate. I think this is my play. You know, what do you think about this? And she said, look, you're a smart person. Like, you know what's best for you. If you feel like this is going to be a great investment for yourself, just go ahead and do it, you know, and don't look back, you know, and that's exactly what I did. So I joined the mentorship, and I just been blown away by this community. Like, this community is so awesome. You know, I don't think people understand until you're actually a part of it, right? And I'm sure you can attest to that, Colleen.
Yeah, you know, thanks for sharing that. You know, I thought Pace was a scammer. And then I'm like, God, he's so nice, though. Then I'm like, well, of course he's nice. If you're going to scam a bunch of people, wouldn't it be, you're going to scam more people by being nice, right?
You got to be a good scammer.
Yeah, he's a really good scammer. And then I started paying more attention, and I joined the group. And we just closed on our first creative deal in Texas also. And it's real.
Absolutely.
And it's going to help more people. I think his model is even better than anyone. I paid $30,000 or more to be in, you know, 6-month programs, and then you're out of the program at the end of the 6 months.
Wow.
And you're out of community with those people, right? Unless you keep in contact with them personally. And I love the way Pace does it because when you're in community, like I met you at a community thing, right?
Right.
That is, well, it was someone else's event, but Pace invited his whole community to come, right, on his dime.
Mm-hmm.
And so Pace was generous and has a go-giver heart. But I think by being in community and Pace's philosophy, I've never heard of anything like it. He's like, you got to make 50 new friends to do this or to do that, right? So you're calling total strangers. You have no idea who they are. And you're finding out what's their avatar, what are they looking for, and how can you help them, right? And then they ask you the same things, and then you see how you can connect each other
Right.
and make deals together, right?
So when I first joined the community, that was like the first action step, right? It's like go make 50 friends. And I don't know about you, Colleen, but what I consider friend and meeting someone online, it's not, per se an actual friend, right? It's just somebody you meet online and you're connecting with. So I said, what does he mean by go make 50 friends? But anyways, I went and did that, and I connected with as many people as I can, just introducing myself. Look, hey, I'm Joseph. This is what I'm currently doing. This is what I'm trying to do. And what are you doing in your business? And I'm so glad I did that, because when I did that, I met some awesome people in the beginning, right? I met some great people. And once I started actually taking action, I said, you know what? Now's the time. When I first got my first deal, I was running into some hurdles, if you will, and I was able to reach back to these people and ask for advice, right? Like, hey, I got this going on. Like, what do you think about this? And then they would just kind of like, hey, look, do this, do that, do that. And, even though you're a part of Pace Morby's mentorship in the Subto community, you don't always necessarily have a direct access to him, right? It's not like you could just call him up and be like, hey, Pace, I got this going on. He's going to solve your problem. That's not what he believes in. He believes in community, us all making 50 friends, connecting with one another, and leaning on that community when you need help, right? And so I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was actually a big part of my success, was meeting 50 friends. And I recommend anybody to go out and do the same.
Yeah. You know what? It is crazy because you in real world, no one tells you to do this stuff, right?
Right.
And tell me, because I listened to your podcast and your YouTube interview with Pace, because Pace interviewed you recently, right, on his YouTube channel.
Right.
What was
Yeah.
that like?
So, man, that was, honestly, I was nervous, because here I am. I joined this mentorship because of Pace Morby, and I'm right here. I'm in the community now. I'm watching the modules. I'm meeting people. I'm taking action, and then I get my first deal. And my first deal, by the way, was a multi-family quadplex. And so when I got this deal, I got it exactly. I followed the blueprint exactly how Pace planned it out for us. He laid this blueprint out for us. So I purchased this property with no money down, no background check, no credentials check, no bank loan, any of that. The only thing I did have to pay out of pocket was the closing costs, which was less than $5,000, right? And so I got this quadplex, and I had 4 tenants already in place. So it's already cash flowing. And when I got this quadplex, I was on month 3 of the mentorship, believe it or not. And I thought that was normal, to be honest with you. I figured everybody in this community was just action takers, and a lot of people were just crushing it day one. And when I did that, Pace reached out to me, and he said, hey, you know what? I love your story. Like, shoot me an email. I said, shoot me. So at first I was like, is this the real Pace Morby? Like, is this the crypto Pace? Like, am I getting scammed? I decided to reach out. I shot him the email, and he says, hey, can you make yourself available on Sunday and make sure you have a good, reliable internet connection and a microphone? And I said, yeah, sure. I said, what's it about? He said, just be ready. He didn't give me any information. He said, just be ready. So I figured it was kind of like an interview of some sort or a podcast. So sure enough, I show up Sunday, and he just starts talking about my journey. And he's like, hey, look, you remind me of people that just take action and keep things simple, right? You don't overcomplicate it. Like, you took everything that I taught you guys and you applied it, and now look at you, because you do have a full-time job, right? You have a 9-to-5, where a lot of people make excuses on why they can't get things done, because I don't got the time. I don't, I got this going on. And it's like, look at you, man. You got a full-time job. You're a father. You got kids, and you still make the time to make this happen. So it was so, humbling and great to get that opportunity to share my story on his podcast, because that alone opened up a lot of doors for me. People watched that podcast, and people started reaching out to me and were like, dude, I'm inspired by you, your story. And I didn't know how to take that, right? Because I'm looking at it like, this is normal. Like, I didn't think it was inspiring at all. Like, I was like, it's great, I got this action I took, but I'm a humble guy. Like, I don't ever think of myself as some highly superior guy. I'm just sharing my story, and then people was telling me that's inspiring. It was such an awesome feeling to hear that from people. So yeah, I just shared my story on his platform, and it's been great because I get people reaching out to me all the time. Hey, I want to do deals with you. I want to bring opportunities your way. Hey, I signed up to the Subto community because of your video, and it's great to hear people say stuff like that. So that was my introduction with Pace. The first time I ever spoke to him was on his podcast.
Oh my goodness, isn't that incredible?
It is incredible.
Yeah. Can you walk us through once you signed up for Sub 2, what are like your next 4 or 5 steps to getting the deal?
So the reason why I joined Subto was because I knew watching YouTube channels and listening to the podcast was only going to take me so far. I knew I had to get the proper education because I didn't really know a whole lot about real estate. So I figured when I bought into this program, I was paying for a course. I was paying for these modules, if you will. Then I quickly realized that the modules wasn't the real value. The modules was only a small portion of what you're buying into the mentorship. The community, that's really what the value was. So, I joined this mentorship, and I just started learning. I was like, you know what? I could watch all these modules all I want, but I really need to take action, right? Because I'm not one to sit on the sidelines and like wait for my opportunity or for something to land in my lap. I'm like, look, let's go out here. Let's break things. Let's make mistakes. Let's jump on these calls and let's screw things up. I've always been that type of person, right? So what I highly recommend for someone wanting to get their first deal or just not knowing where to start, how to begin, I would highly recommend you watch Pace's Avatar series, and finding out who you are in real estate. I think that's very crucial because, watching this, he made this 4-hour long video and I watched the entire thing, right? And I think he's even updated it since then, because people think, okay, I get into real estate, they watch these gurus on YouTube and they think I have to cold call. I have to get on a phone call and talk to people. Well, Colleen, what if you're not a person that's good on the phone calls? What if you're not a person that knows how to structure a deal, or you don't feel comfortable doing that? You're automatically what? You're going to give up on real estate. You're going to say, you know what? This isn't for me, right? And so what's great about that series is it helps you understand, like, there's so many ways to make money in real estate. Whether it's cold call, where if you're an action or a visionary, right? Direct to seller visionary, then there's integrators, there's connectors, there's transaction coordinators. There's a whole list of things that you can do in real estate that you can make money on. So starting off there, listening and watching the Avatar series and figuring out who you are in real estate, what identifies with you, that would be the first step. Then if you are in the Subto community, I would highly recommend you watch Zero to Hero series. Have you seen that series, by the way, Colleen?
No, I had not heard of it until I heard you talk about it.
So the Zero to Hero series is great because it has Pace's partners on this video, and they literally made an entire series on how to start. They walk you through the day-to-day process on how to start up your company, how to get your LLC, how to, start pulling your lists, what lists to pull, and I watched that entire series and I was just taking notes like a madman. I was writing down everything and just absorbing all this information. And what I did was like, okay, cool. I got the blueprint now. I'm going to start taking action, right? Then my MSA, so you get an MSA when you start in the mentorship, you get an MSA that gets assigned to you for, I believe it's 60 days. And this MSA is basically someone that just like guides you through the mentorship, like points you into the right direction. Like, hey, where do I find this? He'll give you links. My MSA was so great. He was actually challenging me. Avery was my MSA. he was challenging me. He's like, look, Joseph, you're an action taker. You're ready to go, man. I want to take off the training wheels and I want to start challenging you. So he's like, what do you think you need to know to get started today? I said, I really want to know objections, right? I want to understand seller objections because I see myself as a visionary direct to seller. He said, great. Next week, I'm going to send you some information and we're going to rehearse and we're going to go over some objections. By the way, get on the daily dial and the nightly dial. I said, what is that? He says, that's a Zoom training that Pace has his team holding every day. And you can get on here and you can practice, you can rehearse, you can get on phone calls and just, role play with people. And I got in there and I was nervous. I was so nervous. Like I didn't want to jump on any calls. And then I said, you know what? I'm not going to get anywhere like this, right? I got it. So I just rose my hand. There's a way you could raise your hand in Zoom. And I just started getting there. I was messing up. And then they're like, look, you're nervous right now. Focus, work on this, work on that. So every day I would just keep practicing. Pace was talking a story about Monif when he first got in there and they were doing a role play. And he got so nervous that he hung up the phone. And it wasn't even an actual seller. It was just a role play because he got so nervous. But look at Monif now. Monif is actually, he's been at the Closer Olympics, closing deals like a champion, and it's great. It's inspiring to see people like that. So, so start out by doing the Avatar series, find out who you are, watch the Zero to Hero series, identify and learn how you can actually start, get your LLC started, and start up that process. And then, start throwing yourself in there. And if you don't see yourself as a direct to seller or a visionary of that some sort, start connecting with people that are like you. Like if you're an integrator or if you're a transaction coordinator, make those 50 friends in the community and reach out to people and figure out how you can bring value to them or how, you guys can connect with one another. Go to meetups, right? Meetups are great because you can really connect with a lot of people. We got the OC JV group out here in California. We got the LA JV group that's out here. I'm always trying to go to these meetups as much as I can. Unfortunately, my time doesn't permit as much as possible, but every chance I get, I'm trying to go to meetups. I'm trying to go to seminars, not just to watch the value that they're bringing, but also to connect with one another and seeing, hey, this guy's a private money lender, or, this person's a connector, or this person's this, and just making those connections with people. And I think that's what it's all about. So that's, I would say, the first action steps you should do to start getting your first deal.
No, those are great steps. And taking the imperfect action, because every person, I know when I made my first phone calls, the phone gets heavy, your heart pounding, your throat gets like, and you don't know what to say, and you don't want to make those calls, right? But if you don't make crappy calls, you're never going to make good calls.
Yeah, and a key thing that I was doing early on was I recorded all my calls, right? Because you got to be honest with yourself. You got to go back and listen to these calls and say, dang, I could have said this differently, or I could have said that, or man, they left a bunny right there. They gave me the motivation right there and I completely missed it. And you can go back and listen to that call and reevaluate yourself. And next call, you just try to get better. That's what I would recommend. Every single call, just try to get better every single time, whatever you're doing. And that's really the key right there. But like you just said, getting on the call, being nervous. Hey, everybody's nervous, guys. Like there's nobody in here that came in. I don't care if it's Pace Morby, Maneve, Jerry Norton. All these guys started out just like you. Everybody was nervous. We all get nervous. I still get nervous. I get on the phone calls and I still get butterflies. But that, I don't think that ever goes away. You just try to keep getting better and just try to take action because, hey, closed mouths don't get fed, right? You're not going to get a deal by just sitting on the sidelines. You got to get out there and just mess things up, make mistakes, fail forward.
You really do have to jump all in. Also, we have people watching live. If you guys have questions for Joseph, type them in the chat. We'll find out the answers to your questions. Isn't he wonderful? The interview is going great so far. I'm loving it. And people are in the chat typing. So let us know if you have questions for Joseph. And then, you know what? I love that you have to be honest with yourself. If you're lying to yourself, you're not gonna get anywhere. And I think that I really give you kudos for having the guts to record yourself and then to go back and listen to them again, because then you find out, like you said about the bunnies, that Pace shares a story for people who don't know. Pace shares a story about getting the people, when you're on the phone with the seller, find out what their motivation was. And there was a story about somebody who had some bunnies and they were worried about their bunnies in the move. And so he made sure that the bunnies were taken care of. But you have to find out what is your seller's bunnies, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people make the mistake, Colleen, of getting on a phone call, right? And they just start talking. You know, they come across like car salesmen and they're just doing all the talking and they're not doing any listening, right? So the key thing is the way you're gonna get a deal is by finding out how to solve somebody's problem. You got to reach a motivated seller, right? And you're not going to find that out by doing all this talking. You got to listen to them and try to find these key points that they're going through, right? And that's really the key right there. Asking better questions that give you what you're looking for. And once you find out what that motivation is or what that pain point is for them, now it's like, hey, being a solution for them. And that's what I love about this business, because I'm not going to lie, I started out just, I want to make more money. And then as I got into it, pace really changed my mindset, that go giver mentality, because I grew up in California. A lot of people right here are take, right? A lot of people were like, hey, what you got in your pockets, trying to figure out how to like hustle you to take things from you. So when I joined this community, it was the complete opposite. Everybody's like, give, give, give. And you're like, what's in it for you guys? Like, why are you so giving? And you realize that these people don't want nothing from you. They're like, look, man, I don't want nothing from you. I just want to see you win. Right. And so it's embedded this mentality on me. And it's like, hey, we're in the business of helping people, solving problems. The money's going to come regardless if you can solve people's problems. If you can figure out how to identify that problem that seller's going through and then solving it, hey, they're going to want to do business with you and they're going to want to sell you their home. And I think a lot of people also, they come in, right, and then they just come in like machine guns. They come and spraying all this information instead of being snipers, right? A sniper, he shoots one shot and he gets his shot, right? Machine guns just start spraying everything and they don't hardly hit anything, right? So you really got to extract this information from people. And you also have to go through all these objections with people before those objections even come up. People are afraid to talk about those things because they feel like it's going to kill their deal. But if you notice Pace, if you ever listen to his live calls, if he says, hey, do you have any questions, Colleen? They're going to say, oh, no, I don't have any other questions. He goes, well, do you mind if I go through some of the frequently asked questions that I see on a day-to-day basis on these deals? And then they're like, why would you do that? Like, why would you give me this information so willingly? But it builds trust. It builds character with that seller, right? And it really helps out, for that person to build that trust with you. And then they're going to want to do business with you.
Well, because they have those questions, even though they're not sharing them. And they're maybe don't feel comfortable saying it, but it's still there. And if you don't bring it up, then you're not actually, you think the call went well, but if you don't handle the most common objections to create a finance with them and bring it out on the table, then it's still an unresolved hesitation on their part.
Exactly. So I do see we got a question that came in from Bridget. By the way, shout out to Bridget. She's awesome, by the way.
Oh, I love her so much. She's my battle buddy.
Yeah. Oh, is she? Yeah, she's so awesome. I saw she has a question right now of how am I managing time and what am I doing to time block? So, like I told you guys in the beginning, a lot of people find excuses and they're saying I'm so busy. Well, guys, I'm busy. Like I work a full-time job. So I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I go to my job. I start my shift as a building engineer at 6 in the morning and I get off at 2. By the time I get home, it's right around 3 o'clock Pacific time, right? When I get off my other job, I'm tired just like you guys. I'm tired. I'm beat. We had a long day, but I know that I'm not going to get any closer to my goals unless I just, drink another coffee and put that behind me. So once I get home at 3 o'clock, I start clocking into my real estate business and I give myself 3 hours a day. So I am multitasking while I'm at work. If I have a little downtime, I'll shoot an email. I'll respond to people on DMs. Like I'll send text messages on our system. And that's what I do to multitask during the day so I can be productive. When I get home at 3 o'clock, that's when I start getting on the phone lines, checking in with my team, like how's everything going, making phone calls, and I'll do that until 6 o'clock. Once 6 o'clock hits, I'm done for the day. I don't do anything else with business wise because you know why? That's my family time, right? And everything is about balance because if you don't have a balance, your whole structure is going to fall apart, right? Because I see a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I've had advice by great people, and they've told me, hey, don't make the mistake of neglecting family time. That's so important, right? Because your wife will be supportive of your goals, but she's not going to be there if you're not giving her any time or any time for your family. My kids are only 6 years old and 4 years old, right? This is the key time I really have to be a part of their life because if you blink, you missed it, right? And I want to be a part of their lives. So I want them to always remember me being, a hardworking dad, but also a dad that was there for them. So at 6 o'clock, I cut off all real estate, cut off all business, and I just spend time with my family. That's how I'm time blocking. So I'm multitasking throughout the day while I'm at my job, and then when I get home, I'm doing 3 hours of work. And also, how I'm finding success is by building a team and having people call. So how do I go through all this list that I pull? I hire a VA. A VA is cold calling for me while I'm at work. She's calling 8 hours a day, and then while I'm at work, I got acquisition people on my team that are calling and making calls to sellers, and I'm just jumping in and helping them.
So you're assembling a team now.
I started assembling a team, and that was all thanks to Pace because, he put me on his podcast and people wanted to do business with me. So they started reaching out to me. And when I originally started, it was to build passive income, right? So I wanted tax write-offs because I'm a high W-2 earner. So I wanted tax write-offs. And I also wanted to build passive income so I can bring in more income on a monthly basis. So when I go to purchase my home, I'm not struggling. I'm not living day to day where it's like paycheck to paycheck, right? So now, since I have a team, I started, you know what? Why don't I just build out a wholesale business, right? Because it's nice to have passive income, but that takes time. That's an investment. I would rather do both and be, like multitask, if you will. You want to be able to build money now and build money later. So I started building out a wholesale team. And ever since then, it's been great. I got a acquisition team. I got a VA. I got my partner Ash. He's my integrator. Then we go hand in hand. If anybody ever read the book Rocket Fuel, I highly recommend you read that book because it will talk about having a visionary and an integrator and how you guys mirror each other. You not mirror each other, but you guys complement each other. You're not an exact fit for each other, but you guys, when I'm doing all the front end stuff and he's doing all the back end stuff, if you will. I don't have time. I don't have the smarts and the time to do all the software stuff. So that's why my integrator does all that. And I'm on the phone lines and making calls to my sellers, and I'm creating things for the business and I'm bringing it back to him and he's implementing that. He's like, look, man, you got all these crazy ideas. I can't do everything, but I'll try my best. So that's how I'm doing those type of things.
I like that. I'm going to get that book, Rocket Fuel. I've not read that book, so thank you. I'm always looking for more books to expand my knowledge, right?
Yes.
And I think that you're wise because when your kids are little, you only get one shot at that. And one day they're going to be old. And what's funny is when your kids are young, because I could be your mom. And when your kids are little, for me, I felt like I was just tired and worn out and it would never end. And then poof, one day they were all gone and grown up and on their own. It's really
Right.
weird that one day they're gone. And there's a quote that I love that says that no success outside the home can compensate for failure inside the home.
Right.
And so you can never recapture this time with your kids. I think that it's good to go after our goals and our dreams, but it's also good to be present and be there for those dedicated time in their lives, because those connections and that relationship is so important. That I really love that you say that, because I don't actually listen to anybody who tells me work, 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 and they ignore their family.
Right.
And I don't care what they have to say, because I don't want that lifestyle, because that's not what success means to me. Success, I love money and I love my family and I love God and I love having fun and going out in nature. I want to have success in all areas of my life, in my health and my family relationships, my relationship with God, in the community. Do you know what I'm saying? Not just I don't want to just have one equity of my life because I believe there's 7 equities in your life. And I feel like if you just have money, it's not very fulfilling. And I want a very fulfilled life. So I feel like you're building that out.
Yeah, and what good is being rich if what is the definition of being rich, right? So, what good is having all this money if you don't have a family or someone to share it with, because there's some things that money just can't buy, right? And so being rich is being rich in all areas in life. Being rich with your health. What good is wealth if you don't have health? Being rich with your family and having that great family bond, and enjoying these moments that you just can't buy. You can't buy these memories, right? And I want to be able to cherish all those moments with them. So, it's just really finding a balance. And I'm so glad that, Bridget brought that up, because it's really about time blocking, making the best out of your time. I don't have time to watch TV anymore. Like, I don't watch TV. I'm not sitting on the couch watching Netflix as much as I would like to, but I don't have that luxury anymore, because I know that that's not productive of my time. Like, I have a goal and I'm going to reach that goal. I grew up poor, right? I didn't have nothing. So it gave me that motivation to really want to, strive to get better things, because I know what it's like. And I don't want my daughters to grow up that same lifestyle. I want them to know what the value of a dollar is, and I want them to know what work ethic is, but I also want to give them a better lifestyle. And that's another reason why I do this, because I'm building an empire here. I want them, when they get a little bit older, either they take over the business or they find some benefit from it, right? So it's all about balance and having that in your lifestyle. It's so important.
I
Don't
love
don't
it.
don't neglect anything in part of your life. I actually used to be a lot into fitness, and I haven't had the time to be as much as I'd like to, but I'm really going to start getting back into that and finding the time to squeeze that in too.
Yeah, I like that. I have another question for you because I feel like real estate is not for the faint of heart, and anything worth pursuing is not for the faint of heart. But when you were getting ready to close your first deal, I know from listening to some of your recordings that a bunch of obstacles came up toward the end, and we had the same thing we closed a deal and we had some stuff come up that I was like, oh crap, I don't think I thought it was going great. And then the 72 hours before we closed, I was just like, holy crap, this is like, there's a lot going on here. And anyway, can you just share kind of maybe the last, like you were getting on a plane to go, you thought sign the deal, right? To close on your deal and like, oh, this is all good. It's all locked up. We're closing escrow. I'm just going to go sign papers and kind of just what happened. And then how we handle those kind of things.
Right. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because anybody that's closed a deal knows that that last couple days or that last week of closing is the most hectic, right? Because anything can go wrong at that time. And so everything was smooth on this first deal that I got with this quadplex. Everything was going smooth the entire process. So I made a promise to my partner. I said, hey, when we get our first deal, I'm going to be there, because he actually lives in Texas. He lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And this property we bought was in Dallas. And I said, when we get that first deal, I'm flying out there and we're going to close on this thing together. So, like I said, everything was going smooth. I booked my flight. I'm on the plane. I'm getting ready to take off. And I get a message from my TC and said, hey, there's a problem. I said, well, what's the problem? Well, the closing, the title company, was actually trying to put our full name on the closing documents, which is a huge problem, guys, because when you get an LLC, and we're getting this LLC built in Wyoming, our holding company in Wyoming, we want that, confidentiality, right? We don't want our name on all these documents. So that's a huge problem. So if you ever have a title company trying to put your name on there, you do not have to close it like that. There's ways around it. And so I said, well, what am I going to do? I don't know how to get around this problem. Well, it just so happened that when I was flying out to Dallas, I also made an appointment to join a local meetup that was going on in Dallas. And I went to that meeting, and there was a guy there that was very knowledgeable. His name is Don Rich. He's also a part of the Subto community, and he actually helps run a title company. I believe he has his own title company. And I brought this up to him, and this is again goes back to show you guys the power of community, right? And having these people to lean on. So I asked him this question. I said, "Hey, look, this company said that I have to put my name on here. It's illegal to put an LLC on the closing documents." And he says, "No, no, 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 man. That's not true at all." Right? He said, "There's ways to go around that." I said, "Well, how do I go around that?" He says, "All you got to do is get a signing resolution, and you're going to have someone that's signing on your behalf of your company." I said, "Well, where do I get this contract?" He goes, "Let me show you how simple this is." He goes on Chat GPT, and he types in, like, this long question on how to get a signing resolution so you don't put your name on the closing documents, and out spits out a contract. I was blown away because I have heard about Chat GPT and I've seen what it can do, but I didn't know it could just spit out contracts like that. So I didn't know if this was going to work. And he told me, he goes, "Give that to your TC, have them send those documents over to the closing company, and if they still don't want to work with you, bring it over here and transfer it over to us, and we'll close this thing out the right way." So sure enough, I got this thing filled out, signed, sent it over to my TC. She sent it to the title company, and they said this will work. So I had someone sign on behalf of my name, and now it just shows my LLC name that's on the closing documents. So imagine I would have signed this and put my name on there. That would have completely exposed everything that I'm doing. This whole portfolio that I'm building would have completely been, exposed. And what do they call that? The piercing the corporate veil, right? So that's the last thing you want to do. You want to keep that confidentiality. So that was one of the problems we ran into. And, it was a definitely a good learning experience from that.
Yeah, and I feel like it's never how can I solve this? It's usually you need to find out who do I need to talk to find out how to solve the problem.
Right.
And I love that in our community there's so many people that we can just be like get connected to so easily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we have a question here. It says, "Joseph, you're the man." The seller question: what if I sell my home but I'm not able to find a new one to buy?
Oh, that's a great question. And shout out to Rando. He's a great guy, by the way. I know him very well. He's on my team. You know,
Oh,
um,
he is.
yeah, he's on my
Hi,
acquisition team.
Rando.
He's a beast. He's very good at what he does. To answer that question, we do have sellers sometimes that say, "Hey, look, like I want to sell my home, but I don't have nowhere else to go." Right? Like I don't have, and someone can't sell you their house if they have nowhere to go. That's why we ask these questions. Like, do you have anywhere to go? What's your timeline? How soon are you looking to move? So we've had a situation where we had a seller, they didn't have nowhere to go. And I told them, look, I'm in the business of helping people out. So if I can help you find this home, I want to be able to provide that value to you. And I knew deep down inside, if I was able to find her somewhere to go, then I knew it was going to get me that much closer to closing the deal. So I reached out to people in Dallas that I know that I've met in the community. And I said, "Hey, look, I got this seller. This is the criteria she's looking for. This is the area she's looking in." And luckily they were able to send me, properties that they had, and I was able to bring them over to her and provide that value to her, and we were able to close that deal. So it's just, and again, reaching out to the community and asking for help, are knowing other people that are selling properties, and you can reach out to them, and it's just trying to be a providing source to the sellers, right? Because it's not about just buying their house. It's, like I said, it's about solving these problems and helping them out. So great question, Randall.
Yeah, because nobody's going to sell their house to you if they're going to become homeless.
Right, exactly. It wouldn't make sense at that point.
Right?
Yeah, I wouldn't sell
Yeah.
my house if I didn't have nowhere to go.
Yeah, you need to know where you're going, right? And I do feel like each call is so different. Like I think you can learn scripts and dialogues, right? And objections, but really you need to make a connection with the seller. And you need to find out what's most important to them. And so that's why each call is going to go a little different.
Yeah, I really believe in that. I think, again, a lot of people that get on the phone call and then, they listen to pace, or they listen to all these sellers and then they write down these one-liners. There's no one-liners, guys. It's just having a conversation with people, and connecting with them, connecting with their soul, right? Because you can tell, like, when you're in a store or you're at a car dealership and you're just talking to someone, they have that sleazy car salesman attitude, and you're like, I don't want to do business with this person, man. Like, you start wanting to do business with people that actually, connect with you, right? And I think that's what it's all about, is connecting with your seller and having conversations with them and being a normal person. You don't have to come across like I'm some big real estate guy. It's just like, hey man, I'm just looking to provide a source for you, be a helpful source, and if we do business, great. If not, hey, no worries. I just want to be able to help you. Even if you don't sell your house to me today, I want to help you out and figure out how we can, help each other out, right? So that's always the way I always approach my calls. Even if I'm not your buyer, let me help you out. Look at me as your advisor, if you will. So, and people do respect that.
Yeah, and I feel like it comes across as a genuine, and I feel like I used to door knock a long time ago as a real estate agent, and I went with my friend who's really good at door knocking, and I would get really nervous. And he's like, Colleen, you're never nervous in real life. Like, you love everyone and you just talk to them. Why can't you just treat these people like it's somebody like you're just seeing on the street or someone in the office in the hallway? You're just so genuinely nice. You're adding all these extra layers and psyching yourself out. Just come and love these people. So that's how I started making my phone calls. Just love people. And then I think it's important to have a battle buddy or people on your team, because sometimes you don't want to make calls or a call goes really crappy. And one time I was ready to give up on a deal. And because we meet once a week as the OC acquisitions group, Jason he's a Gator, but he's like, Colleen, pull your head out of your butt. You're getting too emotionally attached. Just right. He said, pull your head out of your butt. It's like, come on. He goes, yeah, so what? The guy made some unreasonable, requests, but just what are you willing to do? Go back, give him a phone call and present what you're willing to do. Right. And get the conversation started again. And it's so funny is that I was nervous to call him. And I think it's so important to be connected to your big why, because my big why is for my grandchildren. I want my granddaughters to, there's only, I think it's 31% of women are investors out of of all investors.
Right.
And I would like to shift that to be more equitable. And I want more women. I want men too, though, I want everyone to be successful, but I do hope more women will see themselves as investors and be willing to be courageous and brave and take those steps to invest. And so I pulled out a picture of my grandkids, and I just looked at a bunch of their pictures right before I called them, right? And then I said a quick prayer, and I dialed this number and just, said, hey, I think we got off on the wrong foot last time, and I just want to, wish you Happy New Year, and hey, what about these numbers? Can you, mull these numbers over? This will, I can meet you on these things, but I can't meet you here. And just think about it and let me know what you think, whether we do a deal together or not. I just want, I want to see if I can help you. And if not, we can just keep in contact. But anyway, it ended up becoming a deal. Do you know what I'm saying? But
yeah, I love that. I love that you brought up the why factor, because you're going to have days where you're motivated. You're going to wake up and you say, you know what, today I'm going to crush it. And then you're going to have those days where you're just like, I don't want to do this, man. Or you're going to run into calls that really discourage you. And when you have that why factor, that's what's really going to, remind you of why you're doing what you're doing, right? I think everybody should have a why factor, not just in real estate, everything. If you're working out or if you're just trying to be a better parent, to your children, having that why factor and on why you do what you do is such a great reminder. And I also like the fact that you brought up a battle buddy, right? Because think of, for those who don't know what a battle buddy is, think of like a sponsor for like an AA, right? They're going to hold you accountable, right? Because when you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing, they're going to get on your butt. Sometimes you need people to remind you like, hey, man, like get on it. Hey, Colleen, start making those phone calls. Like, what are you doing? And people will hold you accountable. And then likewise, when they're on the other side and they're not making their calls, you be a great battle buddy too. And you remind them, hey, get on those calls. Remember when you were getting on me? Hey, you need to do the same thing. So battle buddies are great to have, and you should have a battle buddy. If you don't have one, go find someone. I'm pretty sure someone in the community is also looking for a battle buddy. Just make a post in the Subto community. Hey guys, anybody looking for a battle buddy? I want to become one of your battle buddies. Let's hold each other accountable. I think that's great. I also have a battle buddy as well.
And it really helps because my first battle buddy quit, gave up, and it didn't matter what I did. They're done, and that's okay. That's their path, right?
Right.
And then I got a new one. So if you don't have one, I really do feel like there is no measure of accountability in being an entrepreneur and doing this on the side, right? And so I think that getting it like if you don't show up to work, you're going to get fired eventually. Do you know what I'm saying? Like at your real job.
Absolutely.
And there is nobody's going to fire Colleen from investing in real estate if I don't make the calls and do the stuff. You know what I'm saying? No one's going to say, "Oh, you're fired. You're out of here."
Well, that's kind of the problem of becoming an entrepreneur, right? Because now you go from a structure like you just mentioned, like you're at a job. If you're not there on time, you're going to get written up, right? And if you keep calling out or you don't show up, you're going to get fired. Versus if you have your own business and you're an entrepreneur, you can pretty much do whatever you want and no one's going to hold you accountable but yourself, right? So you can show up late whenever you want. You can make calls. You don't have to make calls, but you have to treat it like a job. You have to treat it just like any other business, and hold your own self accountable, and if you don't hold your own self accountable, have that battle buddy or someone on your team to say, hey man, let's get on this. Let's get to work. This is why we're doing what we do, and it's, you just hit it on the head right there, Colleen. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Because we're not taught in school to be entrepreneurs. Right.
Right.
And so it's a different setup, right? You can actually, I wrote down, you said be honest with yourself. You can really lie to yourself. You can even organize your desk and organize your leads, and you can do a lot of stuff. But if you're not picking up the phone and making calls or whatever if you're the connector or the integrator, whatever it is, but whatever it is that is your activity that's going to bring you the most money and the best results, if you're not actually doing those, results, doing those activities, you're not going to get your results,
Yeah, you're only fooling yourself at that point, right?
Yeah. I have another question. What projects are you working on now that you're working on? What's got you excited right now?
So right now I'm really focusing on getting more deals, more wholesale deals, and building out my team. So, a lot of people like to paint out a picture like everything's going perfect. And the reality is you're going to have trials and tribulations, right? You're going to run into hurdles. And I think a lot of people don't like to talk about those things. And I like to give the real, right? So when I first started building out my team, I had no idea how to build a team. I was just starting out building a team. I knew I had leadership traits, but I didn't really know how. I didn't have someone to come to me and tell me, hey, look, this is how you run a team. Like this, hire this people, or this is how this works. So I had to kind of again, fail forward the same way I was doing when I was, doing deals. So I built out this team. I had so many people reaching out to me. I said, this is great. I'm going to get so many people on my team. I'm going to just teach them everything there is to know about real estate. And actually what ended up happening was I was counterproductive, right? Because I had so many people on my team that was requiring a lot of time and my attention. And I was trying to teach them and be the go-giver, that Pace always tells us to be. And what I found was I was finding less and less time I was actually being on the calls, right? And where we find value in my team is by me being on the calls, because I'm the closer. I'm the one that gets on there and locks the deals up. So if I'm not there on the phone calls and I'm spending so much time on the team and they're not, doing what they're supposed to be doing, then we're not getting anywhere. We're just spinning our wheels at that point. So then, I had 3 VAs at the time. I had 5 guys on my acquisition team. And then I just realized this is not working. Then I had to reevaluate what was working, right? When I went back to and got my first deal, what was I doing at that point? And the reality was I didn't have a team. All I had was just me and my partner, Ash, right? And I had my VA. So I said, why do I need this big team? I think what we need to do is we need to start small, because more doesn't always mean better, right? So I ended up, some of the people that weren't action takers on my team, unfortunately they didn't, they wanted to come on and be a helpful source, but they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. And unfortunately, now you have to wear this hat of being a boss and having to fire people. And that's an awkward conversation to have, because when you get into real estate, it's like you want to be like a positive person, but at the same time, you got to hold people accountable that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So what I ended up doing was I started cutting back on my team, and I cut back on some of my VAs because now we have a CRM. We use a CRM called Open Dispo. And this system is automated. It sends text messages out. It's not a blast text message, but it's a drip system. So it sends text messages out every three to 5 minutes. It sends text messages, and it's finding leads this way. So I was like, why do I need to have 3 VAs calling 8 hours a day? And I'm spending this salary on these 3 VAs when actuality, I probably only need 1. I'm not at that growth point now to really need 3. So why don't we cut back on 2, keep 1 VA, let's cut back on some of our acquisition team, and let's just stick to the basics. Let's stick to what works. And that's what we did. So I was really just focusing on, fine tuning my team, if you will, and just closing up more deals. And what I'm actually also doing right now is like I have a real estate podcast as well, where I like to bring value to new investors. And I'm just trying to get better. Every episode, I'm looking at something I can improve on, and keep bringing value to people. It's not just like having a conversation. It's more like, hey, this week, let's cover lease options, or this week, let's cover transaction coordinator. Let's cover mindset, and let's bring value to these listeners that want to gain value from it, and just really going over all that. So I'm working on, getting better at my podcast, getting comfortable in front of this camera, and doing the whole production thing, and it's great. It's been going pretty good so far.
Yeah, I listened to all your episodes, and I hear you have episode number 11 is dropping today, right?
Yes, I'm releasing episode number 11 today about lease options with Tim Yu.
Yeah, that's great. And then where can people find you? I know John put it up here for everyone, right?
Yeah, so if you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at Joseph Marohn. It's right there on the thing. So Joseph, last name is Marohn. You can also find me on YouTube. It's at Joseph Marohn. So, and you can find me on Facebook. Same thing. I keep it simple. I just use my name because, Pace taught us one thing is like, you guys keep trying to, build all these platforms with your business name. But when if your business is gone in 3 or 4 years from now you have, you should be branding yourself, right? Brand your name. And that's something he's really taught me. And then that's what I've been doing. I've just been branding my own name. So Joseph Marohn, I keep it simple. That's where you can find me on all social media platforms.
I love it. And I'm so excited that you took time to meet with us today. Does anyone have any last questions for him before we wrap this up? Let's see if there's any more questions for you. Yeah, it's a lot. You're doing a great job. And I love to be at the beginning of where you're at. Like you're just starting. You haven't even been a real estate investor for a year, right?
I've been 8 months now. Been doing real estate, and I've been having fun with it every day. Every day is a new learning experience. So, but yeah, I do. I'm not an expert by any means, but I do like to be a helpful person. So if you guys ever have any questions, if you guys ever want to reach out for whatever, I answer all my DMs and I try to help everybody out as much as I can. And I'm just having fun. I'm just having fun like everybody else.
Yeah, Juliet said you are the brand. Yeah, what's so funny is I started my podcast and YouTube channel before I met Pace, and I was like, oh, it'd been a lot easier if I just made it the Colleen Lowe Show. But
Absolutely.
Well, we love you guys so much. Everyone that joined us. Isn't this a fun format, right? Oh, ideas for podcast material. What does that mean? Can you give us more information on your question, Leticia?
Leticia, if you're talking about content, I would just really stick to your niche, cover something that brings value, because you don't want to be on YouTube and doing videos just talking about yourself all the time, because you're going to bore people, right? You can sit here and say, oh, this is my house. Look how great I'm doing. Look, I'm doing this. But if you're not bringing value to people, they're not going to want to keep watching you. Right. So that's one thing I really focus on with my content, is just really bringing value to people and putting myself in the shoes, because I am still learning. I'm learning along with you guys. And I want to keep myself in that mentality. So when I'm covering these questions and these guests that I bring onto my show, I'm asking all the questions that you would be asking when you're first starting out. And a lot of times I may already know the question, but I humble myself and I ask these questions because I know it's going to bring value to my guests. So that's what I like to do. I like to cover specific topics in real estate, and just keep providing value to people. So I hope I answered your question. Thank you, Bridget.
Oh, yeah, isn't she sweet? You guys are so nice. And I really think coming from curiosity in all areas of your life really helps, because then we're learning for that growth mindset.
Absolutely.
I have another question for you. This is my last question for you. When's a time in your life that you felt like you were born to be brave?
Oh, that's a great question. The day I was born to be brave was the day I got on my first call and I took action. Because, like I told you before, I was nervous and I was scared of rejection, right? Because I'm like, well, what happens if they say no? Or what happens if they cuss me out and say, why the hell are you calling me? But I knew it was going to be a step towards my future. So I knew I just, got the braveness, got on the phone line and said, we're doing this. And that was the day I decided to be brave. I love that question, by the way. And I love your podcast, by the way. It's awesome. If you guys aren't subscribed to Colleen, make sure you guys subscribe to her because she's bringing a lot of value to her subscribers as well. Thank you, Colleen.
Well, thank you, Joseph. I appreciate it. Yeah. It's yeah. Oh, Susan Blanco said she was nervous too. Yeah, it is. It's a lot when you finally step in. And I was thinking I want to just share one more thing. I feel inspired to share really quick before we wrap it up. Is I help sometimes on Thursday on Andrew McGuire's Zoom with they needed help on the expired listing Zoom. It's at 7 a.m. and well, it might not be 7 because the time changed. Anyway,
should be the same time.
It's the same time now. Anyway, but what's so funny is I said, oh, I can help with Zoom breakout rooms because I know how to do Zoom breakout rooms,
Uh-huh.
But then they said, oh, we had a practice run the day before. And on the day before, they said, oh, you need to have a skip trace list for making calls to help facilitate your room. And I'm like, oh, I've never done that before. I was totally freaked out. Right. Anyway, they said, oh, you can figure it out, Colleen. They totally believed in me, right? I'm like, oh, crap. So I could not figure it out. And luckily, my husband did figure it out. My sweet partner, John, did figure it out. And what is amazing is it forced me to learn how to skip trace, And then the first call, nobody wanted to make calls. So I decided to be the leader of the room and made the first call. And the first guy I called, he didn't answer, but the next number was his wife. And that guy is a tired landlord and owns 5 properties free and clear. And I've been talking to him about them. And so taking that imperfect action, like I was just like, no, I think you guys should find somebody. I even typed afterwards, I think you guys should find somebody else, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing. And I only have a few hours to figure this out. But it turned out to be really like a gold mine. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. You definitely, like, if you're pulling a list, guys, you definitely got to know that you have to skip trace that list because you can get a software like PropStream or Batch Leads, and you can, put whatever criteria you're looking for, like low equity, pre-foreclosures or whatnot, and you'll get a list of people, but it only gives you the address. It doesn't give you the phone number. It doesn't give you their email. So you have to take that list and you have to skip trace it and get those phone numbers. So then you have someone to dial and someone to call. So it's a good point you brought that up. And look at you, like you didn't know how to do it, but you guys figured it out. And that's what real estate's all about. It's like, hey, I don't know this, but I'm going to figure it out. Right. And that's how you learn, make mistakes, break things, and learn how to fix them and overcome them.
Yeah, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Let me tell you.
That's what I always say. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
That's my philosophy. I graduated from high school by the skin of my teeth, man. I remember my dad paid me $100 to graduate. He's like, "You will graduate," and he gave me $100 to incentivize me to finish school. Is that funny?
That is funny. but you're doing great, and keep up the great work. I love your energy, and I really do appreciate the time, and giving me a platform to speak and share my story. And I hope
Thanks
this
for
brought
coming
value
on.
to people. I hope it really did bring value to you guys. And like I said, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out, and I don't mind helping any of you guys. So
Thank you so much. I loved meeting you and I love getting to know you more today. And thank you so much. And this will be up on a YouTube channel for everybody to share and enjoy. Share with your friends if you think somebody would benefit from this, because we're both new to this, right? And I love to find out what people are doing that are new on the journey, who have had success and but not, but are on their way. So thank you so much for taking time today, you guys, and for joining us. Everyone in the audience, we appreciate you and love you. And I look forward. I hope you guys are all coming to Squad Up Summit. I'll be there.
I'll be
And
there.
you'll be there. Good. Yeah. And I saw Susan and Bridget. They're my roomies. So anyway, that's good. So that's people are joining us. Anyway, thank you so much, Joseph, for coming and taking time out of your busy day. And I love what you do for about maintenance. I love that. Our son's a facilities manager of Long Beach Rescue Mission. So
Yeah, it's a great job. Don't get me wrong. I love what I do, but I'm just trying to find, a better future for myself. So, but thank you. I appreciate you, Colleen.
okay, we'll talk to you later. Don't go anywhere. I think we just stop it for a second. I want to just say thanks. Okay, thanks, guys.